went to the drive-in, and will you tell them that we went to the drive-in?
The Mummy's Hand is the next installment in the Universal Mummy Monster movie series. It was directed by Christy Cabana. This was released on September 20th in 1940, 8 years after the first movie, which isn't really a sequel to the Boris Karloff one, it just uses some scenes for the flashback. This time though, we get the full-on mummy and bandage look. The music is already pretty intense. This is Professor Anobi, and he is played by George Zucco, and he's taking a long trip from Cairo to see Almag from Legends of the Hidden Temple. No, he's really going to see the High Priest played by Eduardo Chantilly, and he's ready to pass on his secrets before he dies, which is pretty much to sum up the story of Imhotep from the first movie, but this time the mummy's name is Karis, played by Tom Teller, and the Princess Ananka. See, this is where I meant earlier when I said they use a flashback from the first movie, but all they really did was, instead of showing Boris Karloff, they added Tom Teller's character. And it's the same idea as the first one. He wants to bring back his dead girlfriend. Only this time, they use katana leaves. The old priest tells him that on the night of the full moon, if you cook up 9 of these leaves, Karis will be alive. You just gotta get it into his system somehow. But never do more than 9, because then you will not be able to control him.
Children of the night.
They do a good job at tying all these movies together. This is the original movie universe here. So they make Anubi the new high priest. And then the old man dies. Sure, let's count it. Even though he wasn't killed by the mummy, but... Here's our leading guys. The taller fella is Steve Banning, played by Dick Forian. And the other guy is Babe, played by Wallace Ford. He's gonna be our comic relief.
I can smell those old Coney Island hot dogs.
And Poopsie.
Sure, huh?
These guys really remind me of a bad version of Abbott and Costello. They are treasure hunters seeking fame and fortune. Steve buys this vase that apparently will tell him where the Princess Ananka is buried. Real quick, the man that sold him the vase is Michael Mark. He was also in The Wasp Woman, Frankenstein, The Son of Frankenstein, and The House of Frankenstein. We've seen him a couple of times. This is Dr. Petrie, played by Charles Throwbridge. That is an awesome name. And guess who also is interested in that vase?
Oh, come in, gentlemen.
Man, I love using that. He tells them that he thinks the vase is BS.
The tomb of Ananka were really found on the Hill of the Seven Jackals.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Karis is buried in the Hills of the Seven Jackals. They say it a lot in this movie. Almost as much as
big as a battleship.
A flying battleship?
Big as a battleship.
it is a really good blues band name, though. Now remember, Andobi is trying to drive people away from looking for the princess's tomb. But Steve and Babe say, nah, we're gonna go try to find her anyways. Because Petrie gets them the permit to dig. Now they just need funding. And they get it from Tim Sullivan, who was played by Cecil Kellaway. Remember him from The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms?
Oh, if all the items of seamen reporting monsters were placed end on end, it reached to the moon, my boy.
He's also a magician on the side, so he is actually more of the comic relief than Babe is. I kind of wonder if this movie leaned a little more towards comedy because the state of the world when this was made? I don't know, I can't really say. Overhearing the planning of the dig is one of Anobi's henchmen. He goes then and tips him off, and then he decides to go and persuade Sullivan's daughter, Marta, for him and her father just to get out of Egypt. Marta is played by Peggy Moran. But unfortunately, the papers are signed and we have an expedition. But not before an awesome bar fight with all of Hanobi's thugs. They take Marta with them on the dig. Why not? The monster's gonna need something to go after later. They do find some remains of a different expedition. I'm not gonna count that as a death toll because... we're just gonna skip that one. Upon opening the tomb, which Babe does by mistake with dynamite, they find Karis and a collection of Tana leaves, but no princess. So needless to say, they're a little let down. Which reminds me, the henchman that you keep seeing, the lead one, is known as the Beggar, and he's played by Sig Arno. The lead guy on the dig site, Allie, played by Belasco, tells them the rest of the diggers have left and are totally freaked out and will not come back because they think the area is cursed. That night, Adobe shows up and shows Petrie what those Tana leaves are all about.
What?
It's beating faster. He's alive. Let me go! Yes, sir! Let me go! Let me go! Let me go!
Now, we found out that this square indicates the mummy's cave. But her name is way over here. Could that mean anything?
Well, it might mean that her tomb were somewhere behind the cave.
Exactly. There must be some sort of a connection between the two.
While the others dig for the passageway to Ananka's tomb, which they think now exists, those leaves can also be used to bait Karis. The beggar puts some in the explorer's tents. Unfortunately, poor Allie finds that vial of leaves. They find Allie dead the same way as Petrie, actually. So, it's time to get American. Babe and Steve send Marta and her father to bed, and they decide to take a patrol and watch the camp until the morning when they decide to leave.
Do you mind if I say I think you're a swell person?
That is the scariest scene in the movie to me. That split second, the music, the mummy, crazy. They try again with the leaves, but unfortunately this time they left it in Steve and Babe's tent, and that's where Babe and Steve sent Marta and her father to sleep. But the mummy decides not to choke out Sullivan and takes Marta instead. So now they need to get her back. But first, they gotta take care of this guy snooping around.
The beggar from the Cairo Bazaar.
Karis brings Marta back to where Ananka's tomb must be. While Steve tries to figure out a way into the tomb, Babe goes all the way around to try to find the front of the temple. And what do you know? There is a sacrificial chamber in there, and guess where they put Marta? Our heroes find the passageway and the entrance to the tomb to save Marta. Babe actually caps the bad guy.
If you were to kill me, you would leave at large a monster whom only I can control.
3!
Jeez.
Fatality.
Steve does battle with the mummy to keep him away from the Tanafluents. Damn, Steve. And that's the end of the movie. The mummy gets burned up and everyone has a giggle and goes back to America. This movie is interesting because most of the other Universal monster movies, the second one kind of follows the first one. This one takes a whole new path, which I find kind of refreshing. And Adobe's eyes are very intense. He's a great bad guy. He's not too crazy, keeps his cool, but hey, you know he's up to some serious shit. And they look better than the mummy's eyes when he kills people. The monster effects look good in this one, which is pretty good too. Up next, we have The Mummy's Tomb.